I think that together with me and our community, we can support a reasonable budget. But until such time as we are reasonably sure that we mean business about the Southside treatment plant, we're not going to support no sales tax, we're not going to support no bond issue, and if the people have good sense, they won't even support me.
Oh, what are you doing? I don't want my picture in here. I need some to pick.
Okay, right, here's the application. Just take this. Okay.
I've never, it's always been in like Austria or Mexico City, and it's nowhere been near, nothing that I could actually go to when I was old enough to go to it, and this is about the only free time I'm ever going to have. I'll be working for the rest of my life in college and like that.
They're here, they're close. It's one time we can go see them.
Into trouble.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of fun.
I hope.
The traditional summer chore of mowing the lawn has changed drastically since the days of the manual mowers. Machines do the work now, and the blades of the old reel mowers have all but stopped. This year, there is another change in the lawnmower industry. The federal government has stepped in and required manufacturers to install a safety feature. The addition is a control handle on the grip. The handle must be depressed at all times. If the handle is released, the engine stops. The new models are not selling well because of the change, and repairing the new machines could be expensive.
If somebody brings in a name brand that I normally don't work on, I will have to take it out of the car and look at it, give it a visual inspection and check the timing on that blade.
When will they get it back?
It's a matter of whenever it gets repaired. If I have to order the part, I'll have to order the part for them. I hate to have to do that, but by law I'm going to have to now.
The cost difference between the new mowers and the ones without the safety feature is about $70. Shoppers are forgoing the higher-priced and less convenient 83s and buying the 82 models at about a 40-to-1 ratio in some stores. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
You have to take into consideration that every year things go up a little bit.
Oklahoma's 1983 wheat crop is now forecast at 163 million bushels. About 4.4 million acres will be harvested in June and July. And the executive director of the Oklahoma Wheat Commission says farmers are looking at extra good yields.
We've heard of some tremendous yields, 75 and 80 bushel per acre. I think statewide we'll see yields 10 to 15 bushels per acre above normal. We can attribute that to several things. We've had a good year. We've had rainfall at the right times, and timing's very important for wheat. Also, we have seen a year where, due to the P.I.K program, and I farm, and I did the same thing. Put a little extra fertilizer on the acreage that you intend to harvest. And those factors contribute to this record yield, or almost record yield, that we'll see here in Oklahoma this year.
Oklahoma exports about 80% of its wheat production each year. In the next few months, a record number of dollars will be put into foreign market development. Minnick feels additional exports will hopefully reduce the wheat supply, and that in turn will increase the price of wheat. Ben McCain, Action 4.
Number one concern that I would have after visiting 70 of the 96 buildings would be the shape of the buildings in terms of their need for repair, and some instances perhaps need for replacement. And in particular, I am concerned about the roof structures on many of our buildings.
By day, Kevin Lynch is a radio newsman. It doesn't give him much time to exercise, especially when it's 92 degrees. So what does he do? He works out on a trampoline. He's in the best shape he's been in 10 years.
After about the first month, I had lost 15 pounds of weight, and my lung capacity had increased. My heart had improved dramatically. My muscle tone over my entire body had improved.
20 minutes on a trampoline is the same as 3.5 miles of running, 40 minutes of racquetball, and 80 yards of swimming.
To be honest, the first day that I spent 5 minutes on it, I realized it would work because I felt so bad. I knew I was out of shape, and just jumping for 5 minutes on the trampoline made me realize how far out of shape I was.
The owner of a local sports shop says the trampoline has been a big seller, and it's come down in price since it came out 2 years ago. The trampoline can be used anywhere at any time.
Well, the jog tramp is just excellent, but main thing, because it's all weather, you can use it any time of the year, and it's excellent on the knees and on the ankles.
Skeptics may come down hard on the trampoline, calling it a fad. But Kevin Lynch is high on the idea. He's found his way to stay in shape. Bella Shaw, Action 4 in southwest Oklahoma City.
The halls of OMH's obstetrics recovery room are now clear, but there are still mothers in makeshift labor rooms. Patricia Williams is one of them. The new mother considers herself lucky to have made it into the crowded ward, but at the same time, it's inconvenient. She's in an area normally not used and normally not staffed, so the attention Patricia gets is not what it should be. Patricia Arps just wishes she had a bed to lie in. Her quickly approaching delivery is making sitting up very uncomfortable. The same goes for Kathy Harris. She's expecting twins any time now, and she has no place to go.
Where am I going to have it? That's what I wonder. I found out about this morning. I read it in the paper. It scared me.
Gene Kozakowski is the chief man in charge of hospital money. He says those women who can't pay and can't get into OMH are the ones who are truly going to be inconvenienced. But he assures us other hospitals won't turn away emergency cases.
Pregnancy is a true emergency. When the baby is delivering, it's awful hard to stop them. So the situation is that the mother has to receive a service at some point in time, give or take several hours, and once that time starts to come forward, she must receive a service.
The inconvenience for mothers who can't get into OMH and those who can't get a room at OMH is expected to continue. The problem isn't one that will be solved overnight, so pregnant women will simply have to wait and hope. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
She may have a problem with transportation because if she's located in the metropolitan inner city area here, there's only several hospitals that are easily accessible through transportation to go out to the
And we got it all in one box?
Just a little one.
Okay. There. Bunches.
That we do. I'll stamp it.
In this initial application that we filed today, we're only addressing the need for revenues. At this time, we're not able to break it down into specific rates. There are certain decisions that have to be made yet at the federal level before we can determine those rates.
It's more morale. It's more or less, it tests and shows basically what they can do and how well they can do against their peers. It kind of encourages them. There are some requirements for joining the rodeo, for having safe-free, accident-free year, and all this other stuff. So they try to strive towards that so they can enter the competition.
Did update 28 of them.
Of the 40?
Yeah. What we're talking about here is improving efficiency. We're talking about what is being done now is ordering sooner than is really needed to sustain operations out here. So what that does is ties up money for items that you don't need at this point in time at the expense of other items that you might need. Actual savings. You can measure
the record needs to show that Dr. Boyne identify and say Scrivener's attention to
coming into the system currently are now being moved to the other hospitals.
Pass the people on to them and they can take care of it. We've got to look at this eventually.
Well, if they're not going to contribute to the less handicapped, the handicapped people, you might say, or those that just cannot afford to pay, which is a part of their charter, then I think that we should think in terms of going back and investigate whether they should be listed as a nonprofit organization and be off the tax rolls.
This 22-foot wooden bridge on Air Depot Boulevard nearly collapsed last night. Heavy rain swelled Coffee Creek, and it in turn slammed trees and other debris into the old county bridge. It boated in the middle, nearly causing it to fall into the rushing water. It also ruptured a gas line running across the creek, but that was much easier to fix than the bridge. Today, county crews used truckloads of dirt to block it off from traffic, and county workers say this isn't the first time they've been here to keep the bridge standing. But it wasn't the only bridge hit last night. A nearly identical structure just a few miles away on Douglas Boulevard was also hit. The rushing water eroded the base of the bridge, causing a portion of it to simply collapse. These are just two of numerous county bridges that badly need work.
We have about 14 more that is under the program to be replaced.
That are kind of old like this one.
Right. It's, they do need attention. It's kind of it's not a hazardous situation yet, but it could be.
Many county bridges were built decades ago and are in bad shape, and the figures are startling. The State Department of Transportation says 70% of the state's 15,000 county bridges are either obsolete or structurally deficient. Even more staggering is the cost to replace them, an estimated $1.1 billion. And transportation officials admit it can take years for all of the state's 27,000 bridges to be inspected.
If truckers, heed those posted signs, then it doesn't concern me that much. I don't know of any bridges in the state of Oklahoma that are in imminent danger of collapse.
For the past 3 years, the state has appropriated money to fix county bridges, but now that money has been cut out of the budget. But officials hope money from the gas tax will help rebuild some of the state's deteriorating bridge system. Jeff Fowler, Action 4, north of Edmond. What would have been routine incidents any other day were causes for major concern today, as police officials combed southeast Oklahoma City for clues to the whereabouts of convicted rapist James Moore. Police converged on this house after a suspicious man was seen roaming around. Police found nothing. And it was the same in many areas. By the bank of the river at Meridian, another possible sighting. After a short search, another dead end. Police were looking for anything unusual, like an abandoned truck in a small pond. The truck was indeed stolen, but Moore wasn't there. And at another house, a woman's dog started barking for no reason, so she called police. And she admits it was a fear of the at-large rapist that made her call for help.
It's just unusual for the dogs to act up like that. And with this guy being loose, maybe an overactive imagination, but the house is unoccupied, and I thought it might be worth checking out since the guy hasn't been caught yet.
Police officials still believe Moore may be in Oklahoma City. And the search continued again today in drainage ditches that Moore had played in as a child. But despite over 400 calls last night from residents in the area, officials admit they don't know where he is. Moore was serving 700 years for multiple rapes. And today corrections officials said they were conducting an investigation of just how he got away.
If we do find anything that we feel was a breakdown, either in the procedure or needs to be changed, we will do that at that point in time.
And Ewing says corrections officials will stay on the scene as long as they still think Moore may be there. Jeff Fowler, Action 4 in southeast Oklahoma City.
Last week, scientists from the United States Geological Survey were using this airplane in an effort to help EPA officials keep Oklahoma's drinking water supply pure. Wooded areas like this in the state hide hundreds of abandoned and uncapped wells. Some of the wells have been leaking pollution into streams and underground water supplies.
There's approximately 130,000 abandoned wells in the state of Oklahoma, and all these offer a potential for contaminating the drinking water aquifers.
The plane was flown low over eastern Oklahoma County. A magnet attached to the back of the plane picked up any magnetic disturbances in the area, such as old wellheads or casing. The flight was a test run, and if successful, the EPA plans to use the method in other parts of the country. Since the flight last week, scientists have been checking the results. A preliminary study shows some old wells were detected. Complete results are not in, but EPA officials are hopeful, and the fight to save the state's drinking supply has taken a huge step in the positive direction. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
That's a city out there endeavoring to give us an outdoor...
No, she's perfect.
You guys have a good time out at that with your teeth.
She's bashful.
With this generation of moving around this country the way that they do, flowing with the work, going where the jobs are, and employers, they don't have any compunction about sending a guy from Michigan down here to work at GMC or something else, totally uprooting their whole family and putting them down here and then laying them off. You know, and who have they got here? See, and so they're caught in this kind of a thing, and that's part of what we're dealing with.
Bye. Bye.
Would be the same as these are,
right?
Broken into sections. We put up the picket fences and all that kind of stuff.
And then this is where your property line ends, right here, and where you want to start.
Billboards are big business in Oklahoma City. With so much money to be made from advertisers, the billboard industry is becoming very competitive. More companies are seeking billboard permits on some of Oklahoma City's busiest streets. There are laws pertaining to what is expected of billboard companies when erecting signs, but many rules go unenforced. Oklahoma City Council considered a moratorium on billboard construction. Under the resolution, no more billboards would go up until the council established detailed regulations.
Perhaps some sign ordinance is better than none. And if you adopt what we've got and then clean it up, at least you will have a sign ordinance. You're not going to please everybody, so you just might as well forget that. Because you've got sign painters, and you've got sign builders, and you've got sign erectors, and you've got sign companies,
sign customers,
and you got sign customers.
That's the big one.
How in the world are you ever going to placate all of those different interests?
In the end, council members decided to table the billboard resolution. There are signs that this promises to be a hot issue in the future because Oklahoma City residents will have a chance to voice their opinion on billboards at a public hearing next month. Meanwhile, the billboard battle goes on. Ed Stewart, Action 4, Northeast Oklahoma City.
The evidence room at the Oklahoma County Courthouse is full of alcoholic beverages. The liquor was confiscated by ABC agents at private clubs for violations of open saloon and liquor by the drink laws. A few of the bottles have names labeled on their sides. The clubs claim these bottles are private stock belonging to club members and shouldn't be confiscated. But the Oklahoma Supreme Court disagrees. In a new ruling, the court says such a practice would allow clubs to evade the law by putting false names on all of their bottles.
It's my understanding, again as a layman, that this does not permit the placement of labels on bottles for the purpose of trying to protect them from becoming evidence if the agents or the police find that they're operating an open saloon. Then all the liquor that's inside would be confiscated if we have probable cause to feel that we need it as evidence.
The standard ABC raid goes a little like this. An agent orders a drink at a club. If the club doesn't check his membership and they charge him for his drink, it's a violation of the Open Saloon Act. The people involved are arrested, and all the club's liquor is confiscated. The ABC says this new ruling will help make that job a little easier. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
light is, go ahead and circle it.
Preliminary investigative results indicate that the auxiliary power unit that sits on the ground, it's kind of also uses a tug to move the helicopter while it's on the ground, connects by auxiliary power cord to the helicopter. May not have been properly disconnected. The cord into the helicopter starts it while it's at the hangar. The unit has internal battery sources and power, but we don't use that at the hangar. So it's a routine matter to have that unit connected. Apparently, through at least the preliminary investigation shows that may not have been properly disconnected.
I remember so well when you said when you left the Senate you'd probably go on welfare. Well, Lloyd Rader's about to take you off the list.
But I can't understand, after 12 years in the United States Senate and several months as the czar of the billion-dollar welfare department, why he would settle for being governor again. But I am glad he came back home.
Agriculture and oil, the state's two largest industries, and both in an economic tailspin. Recognizing the long-term problems farmers face, the federal government started the Payment in Kind program. Farmers were asked not to harvest some or all of their crop. In return, they would be supplied with government surplus, thus eliminating the oversupply, but still giving the farmers a cash crop.
It was a very frightening feeling.
Karen P.I.K participated 100% in P.I.K, but last week, when her loans were due, there was no government wheat to be found. Finally, this week she received it, but the experience left some doubts in her mind about the government involvement in agriculture.
How it changed my mind was not to totally rely on someone else. And it did change my mind. I would never go 100% again.
Even with government help, the wheat P.I.K received then sold was well below the $4 a bushel break-even mark most farmers hope for. And P.I.K, like the rest, wonders what the future holds for an industry beset with controversy and on the brink of economic catastrophe. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
It was a long weekend for these OU employees. Late this afternoon, they waited in line to get the paycheck they never received on Friday. The payroll department stayed open until 7 tonight to help disperse many of the paychecks to 4,000 OU employees paid by the hour. A computer mix-up and the state budget crunch at the end of the fiscal year delayed the checks 3 days. And that was long enough to create some financial problems for some folks.
Because we've got about 400 people working in our department, and people have made commitments that they haven't been able to meet as far as paying bills. People had planned their vacations around their checks this last payday. They've had to cancel those. It's just been basically crazy.
And I wrote checks before I got paid, you know, because you thought you were going to get paid that Friday, you know. And my checks is going to another bank, and it probably be done bounced. And I still got to go out there and cover up all my checks that I done wrote like $10 charge on them and stuff, and then they got to go back to the bank and you got to pay back the bank some more money and stuff like that.
It's incredible, though, that so many people are dependent upon living from one paycheck to the next, and that 4 days without a paycheck can make such a big difference to so many people.
The workers who didn't wait in line tonight can pick up their paychecks in the morning from the director of their department. But for all state employees, there's no assurance that this was the last pay delay. Debbie Mash, Action 4 in Norman.